by discussing the case like we're doing this evening. When I was speaking one time in Kansas at Fort Hays State University, it's been several years ago now, but as I was showing the photographs during my time with the students there, one of them raised their hand and said, you know, that pattern abrasion mark on one of the victims looks like it could be made by a golf club handle. And one of the other students said, well, you know, truck drivers buy those tire knockers with they're basically a golf club that has been chopped off and then a mallet put on the end of it instead of the head of the club. And so sometimes you get your best ideas just simply by getting some fresh eyes on the subject. And I get ideas all the time from my students at Arkansas State and when I travel. It's just amazing photographs over and over and over for 18 years, but suddenly you get a fresh pair of eyes on the situation and it opens doors.
and I had a question here. Actually, I have two questions, and one question I asked on one of the message boards. I was just going to kind of get your thought onto it too, Dan. But the first one is there really isn't any type of concrete motive in this for killing these children other than satanic ritual. Is that what I'm gathering?
Well, that's what the prosecution's theory was, and essentially how that unfolded is the West Memphis police were just, I mean, they were at a total loss as to how to solve this crime, and they were waiting for the autopsy results to come back, and while they were waiting for the official autopsies to be released, they were constantly contacting the medical examiner's office in Little Rock, and the medical examiner was telling them things like, you know, they were sexually mutilated and the crimes appeared to be sexual in nature because they were found naked. And so that's the theory that the police developed in their mind, and it wasn't just a coincidence that when they got Mr. Miskelly in their grasp a few weeks after the homicides that he suddenly told them everything that they thought was their theory. So it's obvious that they spoon-fed him the information, and he parroted it back to them. And that was their theory, and they had to go with it because once they had the confession, that was their case. They had nothing else but the confession. Had they taken Mr. Miskelly to the crime scene and asked him to point out where everything happened and where the bodies were thrown in, it would have been clear to even the most rookie police officer that he didn't have anything to do with it, didn't know anything about the case. But they didn't do that. They just had a press conference and announced that it was an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Let me ask the judge a question again. I hate to put you on trial, Judge, but I'm asking.
No, I'm used to it after last year, believe me.
What was the defendant's alibi? Who worked on that, and what that, or is just one of these things like, you know, like I'm sitting here now and nobody knows I'm here. Well, of course I'm talking radio, but if I was sitting in my office working and I had no witnesses that prove where I was, what was their alibi to you?
Well, that's a very good question, and we had what I thought was a very good alibi, and unfortunately the jury chose not to believe it, and there were people who were with Mr. Miskelly on the night the kids were disappeared 50 miles away. They came forward and testified, and you could tell in the jury's deliberations that it did cause them some pause, but they didn't have any problem with finding him guilty of second-degree murder, 2 counts, and 1 count of first-degree murder, but they weren't going to give the death penalty. So there was enough doubt put in their minds that
exactly.
they didn't want to do something they couldn't undo later. And, of course, jurors, like trial judges, have this theory that, you know, if I've made a mistake, the appellate courts will fix it later on.
Yeah.
And that's not the way justice is supposed to work.
We have a question here, okay? The question is they took Aaron Hutchison to the scene. Why not Jesse?
That's a very good question, and that's one I've been asking for 18 years. They just didn't do it. They thought the case was done, and had they done it, it would have been glaring